Computer. Hello. Are you going to
Hi, I'm
right?
doing
So
well. How are you doing?
thank you, thank
You're
you,
looking great.
thank you. Um, we're just chatting about going with the flow and what that actually pertains to. And we just thought we'd make a little video about it and just see how we go with the flow. I want to share my screen with you because I just want to share. Oh, one participant can share at the time. So I must be sharing the screen right now. Can you see? Oh, you cannot. Okay.
I can see you and me.
It says I can't minimize this screen. Well, I share the screen. Okay, I've forgotten how to do this. Share
In a
screen.
minute.
There you go. There you go. Got it. Got it. Okay. Right. I'm sharing my screen. This is my dragon. Not that's
Beautiful,
good. Anything to do with going with the flow, but this is Spiky the dragon. Um,
beautiful colors. I
and
love
then
you, Spiky.
this is going with the flow. Okay. So kind of circulated this photograph a bit because I thought it was hilarious. Must be me going with the flow. The flow. Just talking about the chaos that's going on in the world that isn't really chaos. But the reason for the conversation is because many years ago I went and attended an Esther Hicks Abraham conference on the Gold Coast, and she continuously talked about being in the vortex, and things just happening, boom, 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 and you just deal with the next thing that's in front of you. I think it's part of this year, this kind of like really expansive, really fast things happening quickly. That one of the things that Esther Hicks didn't touch on very much was how to get into the flow if you're not in that state of mind, or you're not in that state of being. Um, so Ginger and I want to talk about that a bit. So
I
how do
love Esther. She's brilliant. And I've recommended her to a number of people over the years. Most people say, I guess they're just not ready. And but like she has some really powerful messages, and I discovered that I couldn't argue with what she was saying. It just made sense the way she was able to frame different experiences, and to talk to people about their whatever was hanging them up, like whatever was blocking their energy from manifesting, what they truly desired.
I don't know if I've ever told told you the predominant part of the thing, but when she called it a workshop, I imagined that it would have been interactive with the whole group, and it
Yeah,
actually kind of is, but it's not. You don't do anything unless you put your hand up and you get on the stage. And this one guy gets up on the stage and he told this story, and I thought it stuck with me. I'll tell you the story of what it was, which was it was this guy who had had a separation with his children through his wife, and him splitting up, and he was working full time in order to try to maintain taking care of the children. And he was he was saying that it was really difficult for him because the only time that he could see the kids was every second weekend. And he was saying that by the time he got to every second weekend, he was really tired because he'd been working the whole time, and it didn't always suit him, and that his relationship with his ex-wife was very, very fractured. And like if there was a local fair going on a Wednesday night or something like that, he'd call his wife and say, "Can I take the kids to the local fair?" She'd say, "No, you have to wait until next weekend." And he'd be like, "Well, it's not on next weekend." And he was saying to Esther that he was finding it, the whole thing was fracturing his relationship with his children because he wasn't
I'm
necessarily
sure it
getting them
would.
and she said, "Okay, well, I just want you to do one thing. Can you describe an event that occurred where your son, oh, you said he had a son and a daughter. He said that his son had autism, and she said, can you describe a moment in time where your son and you had a moment where you were really happy together, like you were laughing or something that triggered something?" And she said, I took my son to the local fairground and I took him on the big wheel. And he said, when we got to the top of it, he just completely lit up. And she said, right, I want you to hold on to that thought. And that's the only thought that I want you to have in pertaining to your son currently. Just like the highest thought, like the happiest moment every time it comes to mind, rather than think, well, we know if you think about the problems don't necessarily get solved because when you're thinking about your problems, you're giving the energy, the problems energy, rather than giving the higher vibrational thought energy. So um, what she said was just think about, and then she described, and then she asked him to describe one with his daughter, and he described one with his daughter, and she said, I want you to let go of all of the other thinking. And I think that this is the way that you get in the flow, is
I
that
agree.
you stop thinking about your problems, you deal with the immediate thing that's right in front of you. And then the next immediate thing that's right in front of you, and the next immediate thing that's right in front of you. And one of the reasons for me having this conversation today was because recently my world has been like we talked about earlier, been a revolving door. Like the second somebody walked out, the phone rings. Then after the phone rings, somebody else turns up at the door. And then somebody asks me to do something. And then on the way, asks me to do something, the phone rings and somebody asks me to deliver them some milk on the way, or it's just like bring it back to the next immediate thing, bring it back to the next immediate thing, bring it back. And it seems that at this energy level, it's flowing really fast. That picture in front of me depicts my world completely at the moment. It's utter chaos. But it doesn't have to be stress.
No, that person looks like they're having a grand time. They're still upright, their heads above water.
Yeah,
What a ride.
yeah,
What a
yeah.
ride. There's two ways of looking at this. You can see that as chaos, or you can see that as the ultimate joyride.
Okay.
It all depends on what your definition of joy is. I don't personally think that would be my idea of a joyful ride, but somebody might.
Did
Somebody
you
might think that was rock solid. I can't wait. Let's go.
did you ever do whitewater rafting?
No, well, no, no.
All right, that's kind of fun.
It looks like
Inter
a lot of fun, but it's
Yeah,
water is a powerful force of energy, and I don't think I want to argue with that kind of water. You
no,
have to be in the flow in that kind of water.
yeah,
You can't resist that flow. You don't have a choice. You have to like, why do we so see we resist absolutely everything. Even
no.
if joy came knocking at the door, most of us wouldn't recognize it because we haven't given a whole lot of thought to it. We tend to focus on the things that we don't want, opposed to, coming full circle and getting back into the flow. So what you're describing to me, Kim, is you're coming back into the flow, and the interruptions and the opportunities that arise while you're in the flow, a minute later the phone rang. That's part of being in the flow. It's all relevant.
But it's also because it's busy, you've got to stop and recognize when you're having fun and not just
Yeah.
try and cram more things in. Like you've got to stop and thinking, well, actually, this is fun. I'll just keep on doing this for a bit, until this flow flows out. Um, and that acknowledgement and also gratitude, because the gratitude will help raise the vibration of the experience as well. So um, we were talking about,
Well, it's my belief we're in our own way. So if we don't call for it, then it doesn't happen. And so I think that's a very important piece of the puzzle. Like when we're looking at the flow, is to imagine not the finish line per se, but where do these waters take me? Do I want to get in those waters in the first place? Do I want to be in that flow? And where will it lead? Is that where I want to be when I get there?
but if we think about that too much, don't we get in our own way? Because technically, in my opinion, doubt is the thing that actually pushes the manifestation away from ourselves. So
Yeah.
if by thinking about it too much or deciphering you know, what this experience is going to be, we can actually put ourselves off having the experience to begin with because we've already decided we don't want to have the experience prior to getting into it through thinking about it too much.
I fully agree with what you're saying. I also think it's important to imagine the feeling of how it's, like if that's the feeling you want, if you want to get in that stream, then if this is the feeling that you're seeking, otherwise, I mean, I've been known to choose the wrong door in the past.
Oh, we
An
all have.
opportunity knocks. It doesn't necessarily mean this is the right stream for me.
But I,
So then I'll stop and trust my instincts. Is this right for me? Ask myself. And then if my instincts are screaming no, I have to, sort of wait for the next opportunity to knock.
but I think in the year of the dragon,
Mhm.
it's about making that leap. And I mean, absolutely. The one message that I'm getting about this year of the dragon is do not sit on the fence with the paling up your ass. Make a decision,
Absolutely.
regardless of whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision. Make the decision and then sit with that for a bit and see if that's the right decision. And if it's the wrong decision, then make another decision or undo the original decision. But either way, in order to start keep the flow occurring, and it'll happen thick and fast, make the decision. Do not
Make
sit
it.
with painful undecision.
Absolutely.
That's a word.
Is it right for me? Just ask yourself those questions and trust in the guidance that you're receiving. Like your body will respond. For some people, we had a big campfire talk about this one night, Kim. You know, everybody had a different way of experiencing that knowing. And so when you can identify like how your gut instincts or your higher self communicates, the body has many ways of bringing messages to us.
Mm,
And I think it's important for us to learn to tune into that. Is
mm.
this right for me question? And ask it as often as you have to until you find yourself in that flow where you no longer put yourself in. Yeah, to me, those are dangerous waters. Like I say, other people may see that as a thrill ride, and nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. But it doesn't look like a lot of fun to me.
So the other thing you were talking about was the Aquarius sign and how the Aquarius sign with the zodiac. So you were talking about the Aquarius sign being the two wavy lines that okay.
Yeah, I just sort of saw it very differently recently. I've thought of it as water in the past, but sometimes the ridges, like the highs and the lows, are a little more like not like water. And so I'm wondering, is it two streams of energy, two streams of thought, even opposing thoughts that we're asked to be in the middle of? Are we asked to be in the middle of this roller coaster ride? Because I think that is the flow. And I think this is one of the lessons of Aquarius is to be in that flow
To
of
be in the middle,
creativity.
to be in the
Yeah,
middle of it and not to be thinking too much one way or too much another. So bring
that's
yourself
right.
back to the middle. But isn't that all of us?
All of us. And Aquarius is an air sign, so it's not a water sign, it's an air sign. And to me, air represents thoughts.
Yeah,
So I feel very strongly that this is showing us two streams of thoughts.
right.
And this is the energy that we've been dealing with up until well, I've been noticing that Aquarian energy a lot this year. I think that this is a major time of transformation with Pluto making her move into Aquarius. And there's a lot going on right now. We've had Pisces stelliums for a while now, and I think it's going to be an Aries stellium soon. So when we have a stellium, it's three or more planets in the same sign and same house of the zodiac. And that means that the energy that they bring is amplified.
Right.
So it's a more powerful, experience that we'll have. And I feel this is the flow that we're in right now. No doubt about it, Kim. It's rapids.
Yeah, it's rapids. Yeah,
It's the quickening.
yeah, yeah. And I think if you're not experiencing that, it's because you're blocking the flow. Like that story about, being in the rapids and hanging onto the rock in the rapids. And if you hang onto the rock too long, you're going to get tired and you're going to drown. when you
For sure.
let go of the rock, because you just get tired and then you'll go down. Whereas if you just go with the flow of the rapids and just let it carry you wherever it's taking you. So if you're having a current experience of nothing going right in your life, then I would think, and I know because I've been there, and I was there for many, many months. I was there in this state of, in fact, it was probably Nigel's death that triggered it. It took me right down into the kind of the deeper thing. And I was there for many months in this kind of like doldrums, like this really scary place, I suppose, scary place with my own thoughts. I was thinking too much. I was thinking, and I wasn't going with the flow enough. And it was only, that's the question that I want to ask, is how you get out of that deep dark place. And you get out of it by not sitting on the fence. You get
Making
out
decisions,
and
because
taking
the
action.
ruminating, like the thoughts that keep coming around and around,
Yeah,
that to me is a form of rumination. It's begging for a decision to be made.
yeah.
You know, there's no getting away from it. We are the commanders of the ship. We have to be in control. We have to be the ones making the decisions. If we do have free will, I'd say it's in this realm, where the messengers, like pain, for example, disease, all sorts of ways for us to receive information about whether or not we're in the flow. When you get into those higher vortexes, like Abraham used to talk about, Esther Hicks, when you get into those higher vortexes, it's amazing. Like it's just an entirely different experience than when you're in the lower vortexes that are full of shame and guilt and fear and lack of decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to deal with that. Well, you have to. We have to look at it. We have to look it right in the eye and say that here's how I'm going to deal with this.
And
And
part of the evil of that is that we've been conditioned to think that money is the blockage.
yes,
But again, talking about money words and cash flow, it, and water words and riverbank and all of these water words, which are actually hidden in the language, that actually pertain to us going with the flow. So we're given to think that money stops us from doing the things that we want to do. But it's actually not money that stops us from doing the things we want to do, because we can actually do the things we want to do with very little money.
absolutely. If we decide we can't because of money, then we won't.
Yeah.
It just won't happen. We cannot manifest it. The moment we decide it won't work, it won't work.
I mean, I know we don't live in that world anymore, but I can remember when I set off to go around the world, and I could afford to pay for my plane ticket. I was only about maybe 20, 21, and I could afford to pay for my plane ticket around the world, but I didn't have any money to pay for my holiday, or I had a little bit of money, not a lot. And so I just did like got working holiday visa and just worked, got there with no money, and just again went with the flow, little by little by little by little. I needed the money to pay for the ticket, but I didn't actually need the money to live. Um,
No,
or took different, very funny. I mean, it was a funny time during that time, because at the time there was like books out and things, and it was called like Lonely Planet, and I think it was Lonely Planet, and it used to have like if you're in Singapore and you're short of money, you walk up a back street and you turn left and you turn right and you go up 2 floors and you knock on the red door, and this person will put you up for $2.50 a night or something. At the time, there was this series of books out there that gave you really bizarre instructions of how to travel the world cheaply, because it was before the internet. I mean, now you can do it with couch surfing, or you can do it with. Have you heard about this? Woofers. Have you
I
heard about
have.
Woofers?
Yeah, very cool.
There's a friend of mine's right into it, and he's basically built his house with Woofers. He's just got different woofers in, and they've just done all the work because he's got a disability and he can't do it himself.
Oh,
So he's
that's amazing.
built his entire, and then anyway, he did this he did this presentation on the other island a couple of weeks ago, and a friend of mine was there, and she said he had his little dog with him, and every time he mentioned the word woofers, the dog went woof. He's just saying that. So
That's cute.
that's a different way. I mean, I don't know whether you generally people have heard of woofers, but woofers basically go and stay at a house in exchange for food and board, and you get a designated job to do while you're there. And it's for a certain portion of your day. So it might be, I don't know, 4 hours in the morning or something, and you might get to paint a wall or make a deck, or it's not, it can be skilled. It doesn't have to be skilled. It can just be general labor. But there's an entire world out there that you can go and do this stuff with. I don't know why I've
Who
got onto
needs
this
money? Who
conversation.
needs money? Like, we talk about the new currency. I think it's already appearing.
Mm.
Opportunities like that. Like if it's your responsibility to do that in exchange for a place to live, that sounds very old school to me.
It's very
That's how we once did it. I need a place to stay. Do you have any work that needs to be done? And we had a pretty solid community once upon a time, I think. As
yeah.
my memory is, everybody, all the neighbors knew all the neighbors and
I think it's the fear that gets in the way. I think it's all this propaganda and fear about, oh, I better not stay there. Somebody might hurt me, or I don't know that person. They might, I don't know. But it's all fear. It's all fear that
well, fear
stops
is
us.
one of the easiest stories to tell ourselves because it's a false expectation that appears real.
Yeah.
And so I know you're not fond of the word expectation, but I really do attach that to manifestation. And if we expect it to work out, it will. And if we expect something bad to happen, likely it will. So if we live in that state of fear, we become manifestors of that reason to be full of fear.
I just want to interrupt for 1 second and say to you that when I have a fear thought, what I do is I plonk a pyramid over the top of it. I
Oh, that's
recognize
cool.
it. And it's a glass pyramid and it's reflective. And if I for instance, driving along the road and I think like a fear thought, like, oh, I hope I'm not going to get a flat tire, then I'll plonk a black glass pyramid reflective over the top of the car to undo that thought to protect the car. But
That's clever. I like that.
I've started to do that with a lot of things. So I can't stop the fear thoughts coming in, but what I can
I have
do,
learned to stop it because it's just an option. It's just, so I see it as a cloud and the clouds flow by and sometimes we want to sit and spend time with that cloud and we want to really look at it and we might see a teddy bear in the clouds and any number of things could get us distracted by that really special cloud but like I don't have to spend time with it, so the clouds to me are like thoughts. These are thoughts that come and they go and I don't have to spend time with any of them. So I fully just taken control of the story and said, oh no, not today. And and sometimes you're being triggered. Like if you've had too much caffeine, maybe you're feeling anxious for another reason. So I think it's important to not be too quick to dismiss that fear or anxious feeling. I think it's important for us to listen to what the body's trying to tell us. But at the same time, if it's just an old habit of overthinking what could go wrong, which is what I was in the habit of, um, then I think we can rewrite that by just making ourselves aware of this habit and the presence of these intrusive thoughts or clouds and say, no, I want to have a different thought. What if it all works out?
that's
It
the
always works
that's the
out.
doubt. I mean, my friend Pete all the time says that doubt is the thing that crucifies manifestation.
I agree.
That we have too much life experience in relation to that not happening, and we can call upon a thought of, well, I tried that and it didn't work. Easy to go to the
I,
negativity.
I call the doubt the logic. So like the two don't live together. Like the art of manifestation, I think, requires a little bit of a more of an imagination.
Well,
You know, you have to be able to perceive it, and that's where it's born, I believe. Every experience that we've had was once a thought.
right.
I do think that's how it works. We have our thoughts and then we have feelings and then we take action. And that's for me, I think most of us are having that experience, whether we're aware of it or not.
I think the key is to recognize it, and then you can see where the manifestations occur, and you can see how easy it is to put yourself into a state of manifestation rather than a state of doubt. It's like
Correct.
two different fields. Right, changing subject. So we had a bit of a conversation the other day about the first day of spring and the fact that and it's spring autumn because it's autumn for me, spring for you. But we talked about the day that they say it's on the 20th or they say it's on the 23rd, or they change the dates of it every year. So if you look up on the computer, was it say the first day of autumn is on my computer, right? First day of autumn
This was the
2022.
19th of March this year. They said it was the equinox.
And it's fall for you 2024. Oh, Australia. That's interesting. It must be a different date. Okay, so it says, oh, that's autumn. Sorry, I meant to do spring. Oh, is that right? I get so confused with autumn in the southern hemisphere.
Well, see, we were talking about that. I said I didn't think it made sense to me that we would still call it autumn because for me, it's not autumn, even though I know you're on the opposite side of the world, your climate's changing, just like ours, and that it's kind of like an autumn temperature. You don't have the four seasons there. So
No, I know.
it's kind of weird to call it autumn, but it's just as weird to call it spring
I don't,
because
I think that the Australians would be offended at the idea that we don't have four seasons because I think that they would think that we did.
you do have four seasons. Well, because
They
why though,
think that
Kim?
they do because
Yeah.
it's not it it does get cold. I mean cold, not cold like cold, but
Yeah.
you have to put a jacket on.
It's noticeable, like a noticeable shift in the temperature
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think your coldest days were my hottest summer days. I think you were hitting lows of 20. We were lucky to hit highs of 20.
Yeah, yeah. I often have that conversation with my sisters in the UK where I go, it's freezing, and they go, well, what's the temperature? And I'll say it's 20 or 11. It's 11. It was freezing last night, it was 11 degrees. And they go, that's the high today. And this is
Meanwhile, we're
summer.
turning the air on if it gets any hotter.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. So what we were saying about this is they've changed it. So they give us different dates. So they say, oh, the the change was going to be on the 20th or the 21st or the 20th or 22nd. So we were talking about the fact that we think it's always the 21st. And the reason it's always the 21st, in my mind anyway, is because of the 21st of December and the this idea of the sun uh, dying for 3 days and then being resurrected 3 days later. And that doesn't happen on a varying degree. That date doesn't change. We don't have a different Christmas day each year. We don't have, the sun being born on a different day.
But yet Easter is always a different day.
I don't know about that. I don't know about the I don't know how about the whole thing about Easter. I don't
Easter is
remember it
different.
being
It's
this.
always Sunday. It's always Good Friday, Easter Sunday. But
That even seems to
it's always
become,
a different day.
I mean, I don't know, but when I was a kid, it seemed to always land about the same time of year. But now it seems to be like a 6 week window.
Yes.
And I don't remember that when I was younger. I don't remember it being that variable, but maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
Pardon me for the word, but I call it fuckery. I don't buy it. I feel like, there's nothing new under the sun, but we're not supposed to be able to find our way. We're supposed to be lost at sea, and we're not supposed to really have our bearings. And part of that would be knowing how to read the sky. And I don't know about anywhere else, but it's very hard to see the sky half the time. We've got particles above our heads, and instead of clear blue skies and clouds, we've got whatever came out of that thing that flies over us, over our heads here in Canada. So it's often overcast and no rain. So it's an interesting experience that we're having here. Um, but I think one of the reasons for that is because of the interest in astrology and or astronomy, if you will, and people wanting to see the sky. You can't read the sky clock if you can't see it.
No,
And it tells us everything we need to know if we know how to read it.
if we know it, but it's so complex.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think we just are not in the habit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
We're not in the habit.
if we weren't all living in houses, we'd be staring at that every night, and therefore
That's right.
we would be completely in alignment with what it was doing because we would know what we were looking at every night, and we would be very much
You
in the
would see
flow
the
with
Big
it.
Dipper spin for every season. Each season, the Big Dipper holds a different position.
Mm,
And you would come to see that that's actually representing the symbol, or I should say, the symbol represents the Big Dipper spinning around the sky. It's the sky clock,
mm,
and it's the swastika symbol
mm.
that represents that
Yeah,
activity. We
yeah.
witness it if we're paying attention. If you look, you'll see it in a different part of the night sky because it spins on, I think it's Polaris, you
Wow,
know, the North Pole.
wow, wow.
Yeah.
Does it? The Big Dipper spins in Polaris.
Yeah, I could be wrong about that. Is it Sirius? No, Polaris.
It would
Polaris is
well,
the
it would
is
make
the
sense that it would
yeah,
spin on Polaris because Polaris is the big star. Polaris
yes,
is the point that
the North
everything.
Star.
Yeah,
The North Star,
yeah,
and that's where the swastika sign is in the sky.
yeah.
And it's like that because you'll see that symbol, you'll see the Big Dipper or the Great Bear go around in a circle.
Okay.
If you're watching, you'll see it shifting as the seasons turn. So that's why I say nothing new under the sun. If you can read the clock, then you can have your bearings and know when to plant things and have a much better way of sort of guiding your life, your path, right?
Mm,
Instead of waiting for somebody to tell you you have to turn the clock back an hour. Oh, I'm so tired of that.
mm. We don't do
You know,
it
the
here.
animals, they're interrupting our flow. And it's been shown, or so they say, it's been shown to make us quite ill. Because, you know, one time we lose an hour and next time we gain an hour. And it's big to adjust your life to that.
Yeah.
You don't go through that there, Kim.
No, we don't have it. I don't
Well,
know
it's
anywhere else that
absolutely,
doesn't, but we don't have it.
we're absolutely crazy
Sup-
here for continuing it, if you ask me.
Supposedly, the reason we don't have it is because it used to disrupt the cows,
I agree.
and
And
the
the
cows.
people,
Mm.
and the people, our
And then the
circadian rhythm is similar to, well, it is the sky clock.
and
The
then there was
circadian rhythm, our body functions at a certain time. It
mm,
has certain things that it does at certain times.
mm.
And we're very unaware because it's running an autopilot program, you know, breathing, that kind of thing. It's sort of just running the programs in the background.
And in traditional Chinese medicine, each hour of the night's sleep is indicative of a certain organ replenishing.
That's right.
I can't remember which hour is which, but I know that the kidneys is like 4 a.m. or something. The- the-
I think you're right.
But I can't
And
remember
there's
what the
certain
others.
activities. I follow it right to the garden. There's certain things that you're supposed to do at certain times if you're in that flow. And I've just been trying to observe the sky clock and see if there's any accuracy in this. And I've noticed that, you know, when it gets really hot, a lot of bugs appear in the garden. So it's too hot to be out there. The bugs appear, and it's a good time to take a break. So for me, that's between 2 and 4 when the sun is at its hottest.
Right, change the subject. And it's something that you wanted to talk about, but I don't know a lot about it because I've been so busy. I've been out of the flow. Um, I haven't been out of the flow. I've been out of the news. And you brought up the subject of X. So, no, so from what I gather, X is now the new name for Twitter.
That's what I gather. I haven't used Twitter. I don't think I've ever really used it. I think I may have had my name on it for a minute and said I don't want to do this. Um, but yeah, it's been renamed to X. I am of Generation X. And with this eclipse coming up, I find it interesting that it's going to happen in the shape of a letter X.
Okay.
So I don't know. What do you think about all that, Kim? Do you have any thoughts about the letter X and what it is? Like, why does this keep coming up?
Well, the letter X can be also deemed as the word cross.
Yes,
It's a cross. And the word cross can be angry.
that's true.
So by naming something X, it could be a subliminal message for anger. Or
Well, and when you,
and if you get it that a lot of anger is often expressed as humor.
that's true.
So
Sarcasm.
if I'm angry about something with you, I might say, I can't even think of an example. I can't even.
Wrong
Uh,
vortex.
it's not coming through. Sorry, but if I'm so X could be a way of expressing humor or bizarre. I mean, I don't know anything about Twitter because I haven't really been on Twitter. But
Likewise, so I can't really speak to that, but I can't help but notice, like with the eclipse coming up on April 8th, and then it's happening. So in 2017, it hit a number of places called Salem. And I was curious about the timeline. Like, did it go from east to, it had to have gone from east to west back then. So it would have started in the lower part, and now this time it's starting in the higher part. So it's up high in northeastern Nova Scotia, a
can you
place called Nineveh.
can you
Nineveh, Nineveh.
so can I bring up a track of that? Can I bring up
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
see if I can
And
bring
then
up
the X
a
marks the
track there?
spot in a place called Little Egypt.
Track. Um, what what did you say? Is it a solar eclipse or a lunar?
That'll be the solar eclipse. Well, there is a solar and lunar eclipse, though. So I
They
believe it's
always
the
come. They
solar.
always come about 2 weeks apart. Solar eclipse
Yes,
2024.
because it's just one of those
Gosh,
cycles of the big sky clock.
sorry.
But there's been a tremendous amount of fear mongering around this, up to and including like the changing of the name. I know that there's other things that have been suddenly X, is everything is X. Like even our internet provider, it's Explorer with the letter with the X marks the spot instead of EX. EX also denotes former. So I just find it kind of interesting.
So
So
can
that's the path it's going to take this year from Nova Scotia, and it
um,
starts in a place called Nineveh, Nineveh.
so is it going backwards this way?
It'll go from east to west. So it's surprised to see it up there, and I guess it makes sense that it would be in Newfoundland.
Am I in the wrong place here?
Yeah, you're in Newfoundland.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Oh,
okay.
right. So this is Canada here. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So this map isn't even showing the path of totality being in Nova Scotia. So again, I just wonder then if there's some fear mongering about the whole Salem and Nineveh story. How interesting that there are so many places named Salem. I didn't know that
And they are,
until
and
a few years ago.
the other thing that is Jerusalem. It's Salem, like the latter
Correct.
part of the word Jerusalem. Salem. I was actually confounded by that. Okay, I can't see
And
Salem on this at all.
Nineveh has a very interesting connection to our history also, and or the Bible story. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember the details. We kind of decided quickly to come on, so Yeah, no, it's no coincidence, but I do think that I have to question if there is that path of totality and if there's truth in this. And if so, what on earth are we about to experience?
So
What is this? X marks the spot.
how does that form an X? Can you describe to me how that forms an X?
It doesn't. You're missing the other piece of it, which is when it went from all the Salems in 2017.
Okay, so can I bring up something with that? X
Yeah,
marks the spot
you, yeah,
for
search for Nineveh.
Salem. Oh, it's all about witches. I have to do, um, I'll have to type in clips to that. Spelled it wrong. Okay, let's try that. That one. Is that what you're talking
Yes,
about?
yes.
So X marks the spot for 2 solar eclipses in 7 years. So what is the center point at that? Where is the center point?
Little Egypt.
That's Little Egypt.
And I believe it's Illinois. Illinois. So it'll be very interesting to see what comes out of this. What are we manifesting? Because once again, if we give it our attention, we manifest it. Being in the flow requires us to be aware of what we're looking at. But I know a lot of people are looking at this right now, and I don't know what it's trying to tell us.
And X being because I always feel that when they change the name of something significant, like changing the name of say Twitter to X, then they're doing that so subliminally you're giving focused attention to X for some reason. So why are we
And
giving focused attention, or why are they telling us? Because a lot of the powers that be, when they change something, they're actually doing us a favor in a way, because they're allowing us to recognize something significant or giving us a marker, giving us a thing to focus on. So we're meant to be focusing on X. And if
well,
this is
and
the
something
X,
else that's interesting about that area is that it's a fault line. And also, this is a year that it is said that the cicada, which is an insect that lives underground, for I thought 7 years, but I'm hearing the one that's coming up this year is the 13th and 20th year cycle cicada. So it stays underground for 13, and then there's another hatch that stays under for 20. So I guess different types of them have different patterns and cycles. And but these two obviously rare hatches of 13 and 20-year cicadas are emerging all at once. Biblically, some are comparing it to the locusts.
right?
So a lot are saying that that's the part of the story that we're in.
And all I
I
can
mean,
say is that things are definitely happening faster. There's definitely a quickening occurring, in at least from my perception, and I think
yes,
you agree with me there.
yes,
And that quickening, it's like to me, I see it like a lake where all the shit's coming to the top, like all the oil and the debris is coming to the top, and it's coming to the top so we can deal with it. So
yes.
all the stuff, and this is on a personal level, all the stuff comes to the surface so we can actually look at it, recognize it, and deal with it. And if we take no action, then it will get bigger. It'll amplify. If we go, no, no, not ready to talk about you, not ready to look at that, it'll amplify.
That's true, Kim.
So that could be X marks the spot as well in relation to each individual. And I'm talking about this on a collective level, each of us individually experiencing this X marks the spot thing where something's highlighted and we have to deal with it.
Well, and something hidden like Little Egypt. How many of us even knew that there was a Little Egypt?
So
So things like that being revealed, and what is this place known for? It's a fault line. So what is it that we're about to learn? I think this is going to be a very interesting year of the dragon. And again, I feel like the dragon is the type of energy that's going to hold nothing back, no holding back. It's not a silent force of energy.
oh, Southern Illinois is actually known as Little Egypt.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's a region of the US, and it's a state comprising of Interstate 70 and downstate Illinois. So it's actually an area. One sec.
Well, things are not as we thought, that's for sure. And a lot of people speculate that places are not where we think they are. And that, you hear the expression hidden in plain sight. I can't help but wonder if some of the places that we think are somewhere else are not right under our noses in middle America.
Missed all of that. What did you
I don't know if I can do it again, Kim. I'll do it. I'll try. Um, just that, we've been deceived about a lot of things, and or at least we have an awareness about another way of perceiving things. To put it lightly, these last couple of decades have been a real eye-opening experience for a lot of people.
certainly?
And I think one of those things is our maps and our belief that this is located here and that's located there, and that Jerusalem is where we believe it to be. But there are many that will dispute that and say no, it's in America, and others who will say that it's in the UK, and everybody's got another way of perceiving it. And the maps are interesting when you come across things like Little Egypt, and you have to really then wonder about the rest of the little areas in that space that we're not really paying attention to.
Yeah.
They could be hidden in plain sight, the Salems and the Ninevehs, and
Yeah.
there's an interesting history there too, the Nineveh history.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying it properly, but
if the isn't Minerva part of the Oriolinda? Isn't that Minerva?
oh, you're saying Minerva, that's the owl. That's one of the owls, yeah. Minerva is
but
in Orlinda as well.
that's not Nineveh. Nineveh's different spelling. You're not saying Minerva. No, sorry.
Nine. So it's like 9 VEH.
Don't know anything about Nineveh. Nineveh.
Correct.
All right, Nineveh. So
I don't like to rely on my memory because I don't want to misquote or
okay. Oh, I mean, I don't know. It says here that it's the oldest and most popular city of ancient Assyrian Empire, situated at the banks of the Tigris River. So that's the place you're talking about. So
and now the path of totality, the same as when it ran in 2017, it hit many points called Salem. This time it's going to hit many points called Nineveh. So
right.
I just find that there's no coincidences.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
And there's
It's
nothing
all
new under the
energy,
sun. It's like the
right?
same story playing out again and again and again because it's all fractal energy to me. And obviously we're different characters than we were the last time that the clock spun this way, but I do think that this is relevant and happening in the year of the dragon. It should be interesting. I don't know what it'll be, but it could just be any other day. Maybe it's just a big deal over nothing. Huh?
Says what was so evil about Nineveh? Her lies, rape, and sorcery, her prey in thousands slain, her harlotry and witchcraft, and the seduction of nations are all told. Because of all of this, the prophet says she shall become detestable. Don't know nothing about none of her at all.
No,
Wasn't
well,
expecting to go in
Salem,
that direction. But they always make out that I mean, I don't know. Just the whole story of evil women. It's always they're always witchy, aren't they?
well, and the Salem story as well, as much as it's like a shortened version of Jerusalem, we know Salem to be the place of the supposed witch trials.
Mm,
So our mind's associated with that.
mm-hmm,
And so when you see that there's a number of other places named that,
mm.
and it's all in this X,
I mean,
I think it's
I
going to
don't
be an
know. It's like
interesting year.
to me, it just brings to mind evil women. I don't know what the.
Yeah, and so for a
Well,
lot of folks, they'll say that USA is Babylon.
I know. I've heard that. I've heard
And
that.
so it'll be interesting to see what this brings about. I think we're at the precipice of major change, like just with Pluto moving into Aquarius. That in and of itself, I think most of us felt that on some level.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's
I
gonna
do
be.
too.
I think it's gonna
Love
be
the colors.
a whole new chapter of us being. I don't know, having the opportunity to actually have a happier life, really, have a more fulfilled
Because
existence.
I think because we've started to realize that it is up to us
Yeah.
and that, we can make those changes and we can create those habits that carry us into a higher vortex. There's no reason for us to suffer. We do it to ourselves and we do it through our habits. That's our frequency.
Mm.
Our habit is how frequently we do something. So if
And
we're in the
then
habit of being very unkind to ourselves, whereas we can create a habit to learn, make the effort at least once a day to be a little kinder to yourself.
I think you
And
nailed
then
it.
before you know it, you find yourself in a much higher vibration, a much higher vortex or frequency.
I think you nailed it with the word frequency there. I mean, frequency is the thing that actually, in my opinion, derives where we are actually at in a vibration. So just like we are talking about earlier with the old fashioned radios with the dial on it. And then the frequency is the two-sided word. So the frequency is not only the bandwidth that you're sitting at, but the reason for the bandwidth being sat at is because of the frequency that you're doing something, how often
Yes.
you're doing something.
How
So
often?
the frequency is the frequency. It's the director. It's a significant aspect. It's the frequency. How often are you giving this energy? How often is this frequency, as in multiple times, beneficial to you? That that's it's like really clever because it's the same word, but it actually has two meanings that actually really assist you. Think about it.
How frequently are you nice to yourself? How frequently, do you do you reflect back and say, wow, look at what I did?
Yeah,
Look at me go. How
yeah,
often do we do that? No, we're always lining up for the next thing and saying, oh, I've got so much to do.
I know.
Well, wait a minute. Every now and then it would be wise for us to look back and say, look at what I did and really celebrate it.
Right. So, have we got anything else to talk about? Because I
Oh,
think,
there's always something, Kim, but I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
okay.
I love that, it is a fast flow, but look at you go.
I know. I
You've
know.
been able to manage all this. And, you know, I know it
You
can be a
too.
bit challenging at
You've
times,
got
but
loads of stuff going on too. I mean, you're very much, and both of us have had huge clearings of our houses. So, like, like both of us have purged a load of stuff out of our houses, and also cleaned up the space.
it
So
suddenly just so
purging,
much doesn't fit anymore. It just
yeah,
doesn't feel right. And again, being in that flow is trusting your instincts,
yeah,
trusting that if you're asked to do something that in the past you wouldn't have been able to imagine, Well, I guess maybe it's time to try and imagine it. You
Yeah,
know, can you live without that knickknack that you
yeah,
inherited when you were 2 years old?
I
Do you
know.
really need it?
Yeah, I know.
You know, or has it become kind of heavy? You know, do I really need it? Should I just take a picture and then sell it or give it away? Or what is it that's weighing us down? What is it that we're carrying? What is it that we need? Especially we're in the full energy of a full moon too. So I would say it's always a good time to let things go, but especially when there's a full moon.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna say thank you for listening. And if you want to comment or you want to get into the conversation, just let us know. And thanks for listening. And thank you, Ginger, for your wisdom and guidance.
Likewise, Kim, thank you so much. And very curious to hear other people weigh in and if there's anything that's of interest.
Yeah,
Always
perfect.
interested in hearing what you thought.
All right. And take care. Ta-ta for now.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Oh,